The totality of my life's focus is about securing a future for the Nigerian child. My own is completely selfish. I don't know you, but I know the children that I have at home. I know all the other children that have connected to me in one way or the other, and I look at that future and I am scared. So I looked at the totality of our situation, and this scripture came to mind. It was the story of the lepers that came to mind because I found it disturbingly analogous to the Nigerian situation, even though we sometimes do not seem to realize just how much our situation is analogous to that in that story. We are the lepers. Let me let that sink in. We are the lepers in that story. If you notice, I didn't say I am. I didn't say you are. I said we are the lepers. Nobody is born leprous. Leprosy is acquired after birth. I know you all tell yourself one very common lie. The commonest lie in Nigeria is your claim to citizenship. You tell yourselves that you are citizens, but it is a lie. It is only those who enjoy the immunity of impunity that are capable of enjoying Nigeria. If you do not have impunity, the capacity to live above the ambit of the law, you are a leper. Lepers were taken before the court in Abuja. Just, I think, a couple of days ago. Or was that yesterday? No, it was on Friday. They took lepers to a court in Abuja. And you know by law, if you go to the book of Leviticus, lepers are treated as being separate. Because if they were not separate, they should have equal access to justice. And I am sure that nobody should be required to tell a judge who is sworn to protect the weak that those are citizens, if they were citizens. Once upon a time, there was the delusion of citizenship in Nigeria. And that was before the leprosy of immunity or impunity meant that those who should be above the law are within the city gates. They are out, they are inside the city limits. Inside, they are in the city. The lepers, they were at the gate. Those are the ones excluded by society. And if you thought that was all, I'll remind you that those who were killed at Lekki Toll Gate, they were also lepers. That is why the society has continued to pretend that they did not exist, in spite of a judicial pronouncement of a massacre. So, lepers. The theme of leprosy, I know it might sound shocking to you, but the reality is that what makes the Nigerian a leper is the fact that he is excluded. The only thing that includes everybody is the rule of law. When the law does not rule, when you have exceptions, those exceptions can only be explained by something. Okay. If we ask ourselves, exactly what is the effect of leprosy? One of the first things that you notice with leprosy is that the leper's digits begins to fall off. So his capacities becomes limited. He can't even, Yorubas have a proverb, they say, abere bolo adete, odete. It means that the needle fell off from the leprous finger. And now, he has no way of picking it up. So it becomes a quandary. That is the situation with the Nigerian. You go abroad, You are separated. They separate you at airports. Within Nigeria, the policeman looks at you like our dishonorable mascot. He looked at a boat driver. The average boat driver in Nigeria is a university graduate. 90% of the boat and Uber drivers in Nigeria, if not more, are university graduates or dropouts who could no longer afford to go to school because the system simply failed them. And then a person who says that he's a sworn representative. And you know the beauty of that situation? For a long time, lepers have had difficulties in identifying themselves in Nigeria. You have the lepers of Yoruba Ronu, who thinks it's different from the lepers of Biafra. And then you have the lepers of Katsina, the Fulani peasant, who you will blame for all the woes of the South. So the lepers have had difficulties identifying themselves, and they have been busy fighting in the army of their enslavers. Now, mascot, who assaulted the boat driver, is Igbo. In the hierarchy of Nigerian impunity, the Igbo man is the lowest in that hierarchy, unfortunately so. But that is the reality. If that guy, mascot, if he was an Hausa or a Fulani man, we would not be united in condemnation of his evil. We would have been distracted by his ethnicity or religiosity, and we would have been debating that. If the king of Nigeria, who is sat within the city limit in Aso Rock, were to be a man from the Delta, when they brought the lepers to court in Abuja on Friday, Arewa would have gone crazy. But we have Mumu, Muslim. Nobody can preach about it, and everybody is suddenly silent. Let me say this. When we allow ourselves to ignore the fact that everything we hate, we also fear, then it becomes easy to recruit us into the armies of our oppressors to begin to fight on behalf of those who have enslaved all of us. I'll show you. A few months ago, a certain cross-dresser in this town was arrested for spraying money. There are numerous videos online where you find obas, politicians, governors, even presidents, ex-presidents spraying money. But of course, EFCC is not meant for the like of them. It is the lepers that the EFCC must find. And of course, who is more leprous than the one who does not look like you? So, we were all pressed into service in 18 Bobrisky to the point where we ignored that the law that was enforced against him is ignored in relation to others. Bobrisky, which is a paradox for Nigeria, the country we have all built, was now meant to go to jail. But of course, since the jail in Nigeria is meant for the poor and the weak, Bobrisky was able to assess the levels of injustice that is available to non-lepers. So he equalized with money. And then you begin this hypocritical belly aching that has run from the bowels of the disgraceful National Assembly, and they are having all kinds of circuses. And we are all entertained, and we ignore that if it was available to the person we don't like, in relation to which we are now bleating, it was available to the murderers who could afford it. It was available to the armed robbers who could afford it. It was available to the kidnapper who could afford it. It was available to each and every one of the persons who could either afford it or who are members of the non-leprous class, whom the class is punishing and are sent to Kirikiri. or